Hi, I'm back. Sorry about yesterday. Yeah, I double booked myself if you missed my stories that I posted, and it was an appointment that I couldn't cancel, so such is life. So yeah, we are gonna get started at 5 past, like I usually have been. And I hope you're all caught up. This is where you should be at without the my needle minder in the middle anyway. I found it so much easier to do the stitches without my desk clamp. So it took me like no time to finish. But today will be fun. We will be doing cast on stitch and hopefully Colonial knot. Depends on how long it takes. I don't expect it to take very long, so we'll see. If you have a really thick needle like this, that would be super helpful. If you don't, that's okay. I will show an alternative way to do the cast on stitch the way that we're going to do it today. This is separate from the straw that I've suggested you do. We're going to use this tomorrow. So hang on to that for a little bit longer. Yeah, we'll give it a couple more minutes and I will continue getting set up. I've been just waiting for 2 o'clock to happen today. I've been like wanting to stitch on this, but obviously I have to be patient. I almost went live on my wrong Instagram account. So that's a thing that almost happened and would have been a little bit confusing for the handful of followers I have on there. Because it is not about embroidery. So today I'm also going to try a thing once it's 5 past. I'm going to try switching the camera around. So that you guys can see it through the back camera of my phone. And hopefully that will be a much better quality for you guys. So fingers crossed. But yeah, I'm just getting ready and I've just been writing a new blog post. So don't mind me. Are you all excited to do the cast on stitch today? I hope so. We're gonna be, oh no, I'll wait. We've got 1 more minute. Can't wait, yay! This one should be a bit finicky for me to do with it stuck here. This is another, most of the time when I do embroidery, I like to move my piece around and use it, actually like press it against my body to hold it as well. And so this has been an interesting challenge. All right, so it's 5 past. I'm gonna move my phone. Okay, I'm gonna get my chat on my computer because I knew there was something else I needed to do and I couldn't remember what it was. Okay. So let me know if that looks good for you guys. I think it already looks a million times better quality than what I had last week. So today, as I said, I need to get the lint brush on this. It's getting a bit dusty. Today we're gonna do these little buds and some little Colonial knots as well. We're gonna start this tomorrow, so hang tight. But let's get started. We're gonna need our darkest pink, if you're using the same colors, which is 3803 DMC, and it's going to be the cast on stitch. We're going to use all 6 strands. So much better. Thank you for letting me know that the quality is better. Sorry about that last week then. As you may or may not be aware, this is my first stitch along, so I'm still getting the hang of the ropes, I guess. I'm just doing my quilter's knot like we have been this whole time. There we go. Now, I'm going to mess this up, okay? So bear with me. I always forget which way is which. But basically, we're going to come up at our start point. This is also a really short piece of floss, so I'm just asking for trouble. Before I continue, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So we're not going to make it look like this one. We're going to make it look more like this one, where, let me get my needle. You can kind of see that I haven't come up and down in the same spots for both sides of this petal. So what we're going to do is we're coming up, I'm just going to shift it a bit. There we go. I'm coming up here, which is where the 2 sides of this pointy oval come up. And I'm not going to come down in here. I'm going to come down, I should use a pen, shouldn't I? I'm going to come down more like here. And same with this other side, I'm going to come here. So for this side of it, I'm going to start in the tip of the oval, and I'm going to come down where the dot is. So I might just do that for these ones as well. And that way we have this like interesting, like off-center kind of style. Hopefully that makes sense. I think it will make a lot more sense once you see the finished stitch. So we're going to come down in the dot and then come up where we went in. No, I'm gonna do it the other way around because I can't. Okay, try that again. I can angle my hands properly. All right, so we're going to come up at the dot. We're going to go down in where the tip of the stem is. And now we're going to get, if you missed it, I suggest a yarn needle like this one, which is super, super thick. This is the size comparison. If you don't have something like that, that's fine. I do recommend you use the second needle trick again, but instead of coming in right next to the other needle, you want to come in sort of like over here. You want to leave like a gap in between the two. And you'll see why in a sec. So this is going to be so tricky. I'm so sorry in advance. We're going to hold the needle in place. And what we're going to do, we want to have all of our little knots on the same side, on the outer side of the petals. This is going to be so hard. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. So we want to wrap our finger around the thread and then put that loop over the 2 needles. Once they're in place, it'll make more sense. So I've got my loop. I would do this so much quicker if it wasn't for this angle. And you can see we've got our little knots forming here. So I'm trying to hold it so that you guys can see the way the thread sits. So I've got where it starts here on top of the rest of the thread, and then we would put that over the two and tighten. And see, I would just do it like this without grabbing it to show you what I was doing. And then we've got all our tiny little knots all in a little row along here. I lost it. I'm sorry. It's so tricky to show this. But it's not a race. Just remember that. You do not have to go as fast as I am, which is not that fast. And again, same with the bullion stitches, we're kind of eyeing roughly how far the distance between where we've come up and where we went in between those 2 points. I'll wait till you start the next one. Yeah, no worries. I'm going to use a bigger bit of floss for the next one. I'm trying to grab the other needle to move it up. Okay. Because this one's really short. If you don't get the little knots correct, like I'm going to have to twirl this around to make them sit right, which is fine. As long as they're all facing the same way. So if you're not going this way with the thread, but if you're going this way with the thread, that's going to be wrong. That's going to be knots on both sides, and it's not going to look right. So I'm going to do a couple more. You need like 3 hands for this, I swear. Okay, so that looks about right. I'm going to take out my chunky needle, and we don't want to pull tight on this because we want all of this really loose, lovely loops. I can squish it down though to get the needle out. Maybe, there we go. We just want to hold it all in place like the bullion stitch. And we kind of want to turn it so that we get all the knots on the right side. Yeah, I'm going to be getting a new cut of thread for this next one. It's just not pulling. It's going up. There we go. And just hold it in place, pull this bit tight. And then we got all our lovely little loops on one side. Put the needle back in where we came up before. Oh, sorry, where we went in the fabric before. And that is your little excessively big cast on stitch. I'm going to flip my work over and just get a new cut of thread. See, that's all we've got on the back there. All the floss is on the front. Now I'm not going to pull it too tight to cut it off because I don't want to undo those loops that I've done. I can pull it tight now that I've wrapped it a few times. And go under. Do another one of those. Alright. Snip. Alright. Flip that over. Once we've got the other side on there, I mean technically that can be that side as well. But it's just mirrored on both sides, so it doesn't matter which. As long as it sits on one side, then that's good. Alright, so I'm going to get some more DMC 3803. I'm going to get a big cut of it. So about from the tips of my fingers to the other side of my chest, I'm just going to get that much because we go through quite a bit of it. especially when we do this flower. Technically, the middle flower is the same stitch. We're just going to be making it even more exaggerated. Some of that one will be done as homework. I might stitch it on stream, but you won't have to watch me do it. Alright, so I've just done my little knot, and I liked how that was sitting for me to wind it, so I'm going to do the same. My camera stand is not sitting exactly where I want it to. Alrighty, so we're going to come up at the top. So remember we came out through the little dot that I drew. This time we're going to come out through the dot at the top, not the dot. We're going to go into the dot and then come back out through the tip of it. Okay. Now I've just pulled it through so that the back of the needle is actually not here. It's at the back of my work. I'm hoping that is going to be easier for me to do the stitch on. So, over the finger, bend your finger around, and then we're going to catch this part of the thread over the two needles. And then pull. Once again, over the finger, turn your finger around, and then this part is going to go over the two needles. We don't want them to overlap each other on the needles. We want them to sit all next to each other nice and neat in a row. If you want to do it like this, where you're actually pulling the thread, that is a-okay, as long as you're wrapping the thread the same direction. And then I'm grabbing the back one and putting them over both needles. See, we got our little knots sitting on this side. I like doing it with a yarn needle when I do a big stitch, exaggerated stitch like this one. Oops. Because it's not pointy. And if you just do this with a pointy needle, you drag the needle on the side of your finger like there. And it is not comfortable. So again, over the finger, turn your finger around, grab this part of the thread, and then put it over both of the needles. So I'm not sure how many I did. I was more worried about showing you guys how to do the stitch. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm going to do 2 more so that we have 16 total. And I think that'll be about right. So I'm visualizing between this point here and where it's come out through the fabric as the same distance. Maybe just a little bit more because we want it to curve slightly. But yeah, so I'm just going to hold this tight now. Well, not too tight, but tight enough that I'm not going to lose my tension here. And pull out my yarn needle, pull through my tapestry needle, hold all of those loops nice and steady. And then I just want to get them in position and pull the rest of that side through, and then poke back in. Yeah, maybe 14 was better. That's okay though. So right now I'm just like making it sit nice and flat. And that's our little bud. Roughly how many wraps do you do? Sorry, I only just saw that now. It's, as I was saying, it's really varied on how big your pattern is. As I said, this side was 16. I can count this one. 1, 2. It's kind of tricky once it's off of the needle. Count those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I did 12 on that one, and that one probably sits nicer. So the happy medium of 14 is probably going to be better. This bud is actually off camera a bit. This bud's a little bit longer than the other two, so 16 is probably going to be better for this one. And this one actually sits on top of this flower a little bit, so we're going to do 16 for this one, and we'll do 14 for these two down here. All right, so because I don't like to carry my thread too far, I'm going to cut the back again. And again, just showing you that there is barely any floss on the back here. All of the stitch is done on the front, just like the bullion stitch. And like any good embroidery piece, it's business in the front and party in the back. Just like a mullet. Which just quietly, I can't believe is back in fashion. No offense to those of you who love it, the style. I just certainly don't. Okay. Snip. All right, we're going to do this one now. I'm so glad this quality is much better. The video quality, I mean. Alright, I've done my quilter's knot. I'm trying to figure out whether I should wrap it on this side or this side. I think this side. Yeah, okay, we're going to come up at the stem. And then go in at the dot. Actually, it worked really well last time, so I'm actually going to go like this. Bear with me for a sec. You don't have to do this. I just wouldn't hold the piece normally like this while I'm doing this stitch. Okay. So I've got my 2 needles. I need like to chop off half of it. Seeing what else I've got on my desk that I can use. I really don't have anything else. Okay, so wrapped around the finger, put the back of the thread over both needles and pull. And I've missed one of the strands, so let's do that again. Once I've got this first one down, it'll be easier to hold it all. Again, it'd be so much easier if I had 3 fingers. Sorry, I'm using a toothpick. That's good. I like that. I have no idea where I'd find a toothpick in my house. What else have I got? Everything is roughly the same size as this yarn needle. All right, I'm gonna undo that, and I'm gonna try the method that I suggested. Where's my other needle? Oh, here. I'm gonna do it like this, where I'm gonna stick it in sideways, like over to the side. And this way is a little bit trickier because you kind of want to hold the needles separate like that, because otherwise you're going to pull them together, and then this end will be nice and open, but this end won't be. So you kind of want to keep adjusting it, and do not pull the thread very tight. Come on. Oh, come on. This is embarrassing. I got people watching. I stopped counting. That's okay. Oh, this pointy needle is giving me grief. But you can see all my lovely little loops here. I'm just going to smush them down and count how many I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to do 7 more. Okay. So as you can see, these ones are all a lot smaller. Because I got lazy. Didn't keep pulling it apart. I'm going to grab another needle and just open it up a little bit. Just pulling the little loops. Give them some wiggle. There we go. Okay. Take out the spare needle. Pull through the tapestry needle. Come on. I wish I knew where my girls had put my thimbles. My little grippy ones. Come on. What's going on? It's because I got it too close to the stem. I'm going to have to undo this, really? Yeah, I'm going to have to undo this because I can't get it through. And I've just tried to pull it so hard that I've given myself indentations. One more try. No. Alright, we have to undo that. Sorry, guys. Undoing this one's a little bit of an annoyance. You gotta do it loop by loop. Otherwise you just put a knot in your work. Makes it nice and curly. One more. Okay. Oh, that is so twisted up. It's actually knotted on my needle. That's what's gone wrong. I know what's happened. That's the back of my thread. Okay. Now I understand why it would never have gone through. I went through the knot on the back. Interesting. Okay. Glad I stopped pulling, because that would have made a really big hole. Okay, so to try and avoid that, again, I'm just going to come up slightly off. And then go back in. I really want it to sit flat against the fabric. And it'll be easier if I just shift this. Okay. All right. We're back to where we were. Okay. So now I can lay it flat against the fabric, and that should be so much easier. It'll look better too. All right. So once it's wrapped around at least once, that needle will sit properly. So I'm going to go over my finger, pull the back of the thread, and then put the needle back. Okay. So over the finger, back of the thread, over the two needles, and make sure that it sits next to, not overlapping the previous loops that we've done. If you have any questions, please, and you're live, please let me know. I am still learning how to teach all of this stuff. 1, 2, 3, 11. So I'm going to do 3 more. 1, 2, 3. I think one of them sat on the other one. It's easy to fix while it's still on the needles. And remember, it is not a race. Yeah, one of those did. Come on. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to hold this in place. I'm going to pull out the needle. Pull through this needle without pulling this tail here. Let's not have another issue like we did before. So I'm not pulling on the thread until I've got it in place, sitting the way that I want it to. And then, like the bullion stitch, I'm going to put my nail in front of all of the loops and pull it until it doesn't pull through anymore. And then go back into the little dot, because that's where I went in before. And then that will sit nice and neat like that. It's not an easy stitch, so just remember that. Like, it is complicated. It does require you to use both hands, which can be a little bit daunting. So it is kind of recommended if you do have like one of these stand, especially when you're beginning, because then you don't have to worry about holding the hoop and holding your work and threading the needle. But you know, not everybody has the luxury of being able to get a stand like this. I got mine for Christmas, so. So I've gone into the very top tip of the oval, and I've come back, you know, kind of close to where the little dot is. Doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it's not the exact same points as the previous one, then you're doing fine. We just want it to sit off center a little bit. I mean, you can make it sit on center if you want to. It is your piece. Go for it. So again, drop your needle. No, don't do that. We're resting the yarn needle on top, or your toothpick, or whatever you're using. And then we're gonna go over the finger, turn your finger around and wrap the back over the two needles. It's just because of the angle I'm on. Just stay still, please. There we go. Okay. Now I've got it wrapped once. It's fine. Don't forget to go through both of your needles, or make the needles, both the needles go through it. This one, we can turn it. It's not going to be a problem. But as you can see, I'm doing it so that, because this is just how I naturally stitch it. You can do it the other way, where you go like this, where you wrap it over and stitch it like that. That's cast on as well, and that'll make the knot sit on this side. But for me personally, I find this repetitive motion a lot easier to do. See, like while I'm pulling it, I'm wrapping my finger. I'm pulling it and then wrapping as I pull. I'll do the other way for this last stitch. But anyway, as I was saying, we've got our little knots on the inside of it, but what we can do is twist them around the thread that is going to be in the middle, and that won't be a problem. How many was I on? That 1, 2. Okay. Oops. Do one more for luck. Okay, pull out the yarn needle, push or pull the tapestry needle, please. Come on, there we go. And now I've just turned it around, just like literally grabbed all of the little loops and turned them to the other side, because we want all of our little knots to be on the outside of the flower. And just pull it gently and finish it off. And that's our second little bud. I kind of like that it twirls in at the top there. Alright, I'm going to cut off this thread. I might just get a new strand, a new cut of yarn, of floss as well. Not sure if you guys can hear my children thumping around upstairs. Sounds like they're going to go outside soon. Alright, and snip. So that is a decent amount left, but I was having trouble with it before, so the hoarder in me is going to keep that. And we will do another cut. So the floss we're using again is 3803 DMC, which is this one. If you haven't already, I recommend that you get 2 of these ones for tomorrow. It's not going to be life or death if you run out, because what we can do is use the other colours that we have. I'm just doing my quilter's knot again. Yeah, you can just make it a darker flower, which you'll want to use more of this colour, this 3803. That's not a problem. This is, as you can see with this piece, we do a lot of that in the middle, and when we only do like a little bit of the darker ones on the edge. Okay, let me just get it started and then I'll move the camera back in. Yeah. Alright. So what was I doing with this? Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. I'm going to do the cast on the other way. So I'm going to come up. For this one, I'm going to come up at the dot. I'm going to do this side of it first. Ow! And then I'm going to, because I did the dot on that end, I'm going to do the tip of the oval on that end, and then come back out through the dot. Okay. Get our needles in place. Now, I'm going to wrap my brain around it because it's not this way. We're going to go over and then, no we're not. See, I got to figure out, yeah, okay. I'm just going to put this aside for a sec. I'm going to put it in place when I'm ready. So we're going to grab it, like, trying to figure out explanation. My second was worse than my first. Oh, I'm sorry. It is very tricky, and I think it's definitely worth learning. So we're going to grab it, like, hopefully that makes sense. Turn it over, and then we're going to put the top thread this time over the needle. And I'm going to put this needle in place now. And then pull. So grab it, flip it, and thread it. Are you serious? That time it dropped on the floor. Hopefully you guys are getting a good laugh out of me dropping my needle. Okay, so grab, flip, and thread, question mark? Okay, try that again. Grab, flip, and catch the needles because they're trying to run away from me. I think it's because I'm not doing it flat. Okay. So you might find this way to be a lot easier. I see a lot of people doing it this way on YouTube. It just doesn't have as nice of a flow. Whoops. That one went over a different loop. Or did it? No, I think I fixed it. Okay. Grab, flip. It's probably, this way's probably a bit more easier to maneuver on the needles, to be honest. I totally didn't count that time. I have to count the little loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right, so I was going to do 16 on these ones. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, get our yarn needle out, pull this needle through, keep that steady, pray to whatever deity you pray to. Turn this so that it sits in place the way we want it to, and then prick your needle back through. And then just kind of like fluff it up. We got one more to do. So this time I'm going to come up at the point at the bottom, and then a dot on the top. Okay, I'll do that way to do the cast on stitch again. So I want to grab it, flip it, and thread it. So yeah, the only difference between those two ways, so this way or this way, is where the little knot sits. Well, that's not true actually. So you can see that it sits, hopefully you can see, that it sits this angle on this side, and then you can see like the inside of it on this side. If I was to do this way now, which I will to show you, and hopefully my phone is good enough that it will show you, it flips it around, so it's not right basically. It might look okay if you do one by accident, but it will eventually just kind of look really messy. The ideal thing to do is one side of this bud you do one way, and the other side of the bud you do the other way. But for the sake of understanding the stitch, I don't think that makes a huge difference. Oops, this is getting really twisted up. Okay, I don't know how many I've done, but I like that amount, so I'm going to pull that out. Pull it through. Come on. Hold everything in place. Deal with this twisted up mess of thread. What is happening here? I think this is the end of the thread. Don't want to let go of my little loops. There we go. So before I pull it too tight, I'm going to just wiggle all of my little ends of my loops to the right side. Pull it tight and then go in. And that is our third little bud. Hooray! We did 3 little buds. hand a stretch. Now it's the time. All right, I will show you a colonial knot, and then I'm going to leave that as homework because I do need to make sure that I finish at a reasonable time today. Oh, quickly, because these two sit next to each other, I'm going to use the back of this flower to tie it off. Normally I would run it through to the stem here, but because they're literally next to each other, I'm going to do that. I'm going to wrap it around. There's just more. The only reason I'm doing that is because there's more to tie it off on with the bullion stitches. And I've explained why I don't like to carry my threads too much. So I wanted to explain why I would do that when on the back it looks like I'm carrying my thread. Alright. Snip. Alrighty. Next. Let's do these ones here. So the next one we're going to do is colonial knot. We're going to want to get, we only need one needle this time. We're going to need to get our DMC 3820 yellow color, which is the darker yellow. This one we are doing a colonial knot. As I've said in the pattern, if a colonial knot is too confusing, that's okay. A French knot is going to suffice just fine. I personally like colonial knots better than French knots, so that's why I have recommended that one. We want all 6 strands, because unlike a French knot, we can't like wrap around multiple times with a colonial knot to make it thicker. And we don't want to lose these in the piece, like we don't want them to be too tiny. Just making my quilter's knot. I did about an arm's length of thread again. So I got my little knot. And you can do as many or as little of these as you want. But basically, to do a colonial knot, you want to hold your needle in the way the yarn is, I keep saying yarn today, I'm sorry. You want to hold the needle the way the thread is going in the direction. We want to wrap around once. We want to twist our needle. Hang on. Yeah, okay. Wrap around once, twist our needle, and then go back in. Not in the same spot like a French knot. We want to go in slightly off from where we came up. Hold it tight here, and then just pull it through. It's got caught on my needle minder, hold on. Pull it through. So this just creates a little knot. I don't know how closely I can get it with it staying in focus. This creates a knot that is like, it's got 3 angles in it. So we've got one that goes this way, one that goes that way, and one on the side here that you currently see. And it looks a bit more like a knot than a French knot, if that makes any sense at all. So I'm going to do that again. This one will not take anywhere near as long as the cast on stitch. So again, we want to hold the needle in the direction of the floss, wrap around once, twist it so that you're pointing back towards your fabric, and then poke it in just off from where you came up. Hold it tight here and pull until you have pulled it all the way through. And that's it. Oops. Oops, I did it again. I generally do a colonial knot over a French knot when I'm doing like my Stitch People portraits as well. I just like them better. That little bit here is actually the back of the end of my knot. So I just pulled it through the back, get rid of it. not need very much of this yellow colour. I tried it with the same yellow to reduce on the amount of flosses you need for the pattern, but I went back on that because it just looks a bit nicer with a darker yellow. So again, if you're live and you've been watching this and you did your cast on, or if you're watching this now and you're like, what the hell when it comes to colonial knots, please say something. I'm more than happy to help. I am learning how to do stitch alongs still. And I'm, more than happy to explain myself or slow down or do something again or whatnot. Oops. Come on. I've got a bit of a tangle on the back. There we go. So again, you don't have to just do this amount of knots. If you want to do more, you can. So for this side, this bit over here, I'm actually going to flip it over and carry my thread down, tie it off and start again. Because again, don't like to carry it across the back of my work. And then I'm going to use this leaf to tie it off. Snip. Let's do that again. So I recommend also, just to reduce the amount of like crisscross, that you start on one end and you like go around and then around and then around. That way you also save thread, which I'm a big advocate for. Advocate. Oh my god, I'll stop trying to say that word now. That was a good one. You can see all three angles. So you can see we got one here, we got one that goes over the top and one that wraps around. So that's why I just think it looks like a much nicer little knot than a French knot. Hopefully you do too. Alright, I'm going to do the next one slow again, just because I've seen the viewer count sort of change a little bit. So I'm going to come up in one spot. I'm going to hold with my left hand the thread, or if you're left-handed with my right hand, hold the thread tight away from the fabric, put my needle in the same direction as the thread, wrap around once, twist it so that it's now pointing at the fabric, and then go in not in the same point as where I came up, but poke it into the fabric, pull through, hold tight on here so we don't lose our tension, and then once you're at the end of it, you can safely let go. And again, the patterns are all just a guideline. They're not strict rules. If you want to do more or less, or in this different spots or whatever, that is entirely up to you. Oops, sorry, just bumped the camera. The camera being my phone, of course. Snip. Last bit. Might turn it this way. Put it back to where it was at the beginning of the live session. Just doing my quilter's knot. Pull it through. Got our little knot. And then we'll make sure that we don't stitch the side of the fabric into the back, because I have done that before. And I still haven't trimmed. I still haven't trimmed all these little wispy bits. That's okay. I don't know about you guys, but this is such a nice yellow as well, this darker yellow. I'm a big fan. Thread pulling ASMR happening again. Pretty sure the sound of the thread going through the fabric is like nails on a chalkboard from my husband. He's heard me stitching so much in our lifetime. Alright, well, I'm really glad that I was able to get both the buds and these little flowers done. So, hooray! And that is that. We have one flower to go, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got needles going everywhere. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you had fun. I hope you didn't make too many mistakes. And just remember, you can always cut out what you don't like. It's not set in stone. Just, I know that it may feel frustrating to undo your work, but yeah, please remember that you can cut out what you don't like. It's something that I've had to drill into my own head, so I feel like maybe hearing it from a third party is helpful. I will... Yay! So we got one more flower to go. Like I said, we just got this big one to do, and this one I'm trying to work out whether or not I'm going to do the whole thing streamed, because it did take me quite a long time to do. But it's technically, if you want to like stop watching now, you've learned all the stitches to make this. We're going to do this. This is just a cast on stitch as well, but it's exaggerated, like so much more than these little petals. That's what we're going to be using the straw with tomorrow. So yeah, you know every stitch now. If you want to go ahead and finish it off, be my guest. That's cool with me. I don't mind. It's your piece. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to have fun. I want you to have had fun. I would love it if you could tag me on any photos that you post of your work in progress. That would be so good. You can either tag me at 2 Little Kits, or you can do the hashtag TLKSAL, and I'll see that as well. But yeah, otherwise I will see everyone tomorrow, and we will finish off the stitch. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.